I'm asking, is energy safe under Labour? The Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, has made the controversial decision to approve 3 massive solar farms in the east of England that have been previously blocked by Tory ministers. MPs and campaigners have accused him of endangering the country's food security by sacrificing large amounts of farmland for the solar projects. There have also been reports that Labour is considering blocking oil and gas drilling in the North Sea. But Ed Miliband has denied this, and his department says the government won't issue new licences to explore new oil gas fields, but also won't revoke existing ones. So for the very British debate this out, I'm asking, is energy safe under Labour? Well, joining me to debate this, climate scientist Paul Burgess and senior meteorologist Jim Dale. The dastardly duo have returned. Paul Burgess, this is not climate change. You're not wearing those because of that, are you? No, obviously not. Paul Burgess, no. Talk to me, Paul. Solar farms, surely this is a good thing. Solar power.
No, it's not. I mean, basically, we're putting the cost of electricity up enormously with all the wind and solar. I mean, Ed Miliband's even trying to promote offshore wind, which is £246 a megawatt they're offering for it. I mean, gas at the moment, £65. Onshore wind 89, offshore wind 102. But the big problem is this: as we increase wind, we're going to be paying more the constraint payments, because we have to pay overnight for all of it, even though we don't use it. And so as we raise that a limit on wind, we're going to be paying enormous amounts of constraint payments. And besides which, we're having to spend 60 billion to improve the network on the grid. All these are costs coming on the consumer. And what matters in any economy is cheap energy. And we don't have that.
Jim Dale.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Look, we had a general election about 9 days ago, did we not? And I think there's a big vote in favour, about 6-1 if you split the parties from progressive climate change, green energy supporters to the other side, which are regressive and none of the sort. Paul's side, if you like, and they lost. So this was a democratic vote. The new government's been in 8 days, so the wheels are starting to turn and turn quite quickly. Where we weren't safe is where we were before. Let's make that clear. And in 2 ways. First of all, the climate itself. We have to mitigate the climate, what's going on globally across the world. We have to take steps, as we have been taking steps. Even the last Tory government did some of that, not enough and not fast enough, but nonetheless, they were involved. Where they lost the vote, by the way, in that, it is well seen that the Tories lost vote, particularly in the blue wall areas, because of their environmental climate change stance.
But Jim, a lot of them, the 2 parties were almost neck and neck with their policies. I mean, one was just bringing net zero forward a bit. That's all the difference. They still supported the same sort of thing.
Yeah, the Tories were sitting on the fence or even going backwards because they were chasing the same guy. We saw it. They're not the same, and you've already seen the what's going to happen in the Labour manifesto. GB Energy, the transition of the oil and gas jobs over time, and it has to be. I've always said this: evolution, not revolution. I like it to move faster, but it won't do. But nonetheless, this is the direction of travel. And Paul, there's no stopping this now. Mate, it's absolutely clear.
Is there, Paul? Is there any stopping it?
Oh, yes, there is, because it's totally unrealistic. We can't afford to do it. I mean, even this new energy thing they're talking about is not possible. I mean, I've got to see, I'm doing a video now with that recording of the Prime Minister being told it's going to cost hundreds of billions, not just 8.1 billion and so on. So what's going to stop this is the practicality of it all. Now, my answer is not to do with politics. I'm not interested in politics. I'm interested in science. Now, even if Jim was right, let's just assume that Jim was right. What we're doing makes no difference whatsoever to the planet. None at all. And what they're not doing is having a go at the Chinese and Indians and fossil fuels. I mean, in the country at the moment, if you take renewable of solar and wind, it's 4.8% of our total energy. 4.8%.
It's not enough, is it?
And what they're trying to do is stop oil, which is not just for energy, it's for everything from your clothes to the roads.
Okay, so I'm going to give Jim Dale, you've got about 10 seconds to respond to that. Very 10 seconds, we've got to go. sadly.
Just gave you there, absolute bogus. In this country alone, there are times when renewable energy that we get from the sun or the wind or the waves comes in far, far higher than oil, gas. Coal's virtually zero every day nowadays.
Overall, it's 4.8%.
It's clear. Make this absolutely clear. There's only one direction. We're 9 days into this new government.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we know all the backstory about how many days we're in. Can I just ask you then? I'll ask you, Jim Dale. Is energy safe under Labour, Jim Dale?
Of course, it's safe.
And also, Paul Burgess, is it safe?
It's the worst situation with Miliband in charge we could ever imagine being in.
That's pretty clear. All right, thank you very much. Jim Dale, Senior Meteorologist, and also Paul Burgess, a climate scientist. Thank you so much. Right, well, let's see what my panel make of that. Christine Hamilton and Danny Kelly. Christine.
Well, Jim Dale is Jim Dale, isn't he? I won't rehearse all the facts because we've had them on both sides there. But no, Paul, the final words he said was that Ed Miliband he didn't phrase it like this, is a complete disaster, which he is because he's an absolute net zero zealot and he cannot see the wood for the trees. Nobody is against solar power per se, but it should not be on agricultural fields. It should be on brownfield sites. It should be on rooftops. Yes, of course, put it on all new buildings, etc., etc. We are currently, where we live down in Wiltshire, we are fighting an enormous, over 2,000 acres plan to put solar panels 4 metres high, not these little ones, huge 4 metre high solar panels on agricultural land that, as we speak, is producing wheat, grazing cattle. It is absolutely crazy.
Well, of course,
we have to prioritise food security. It is not necessary to put solar on all these agricultural areas.
Well, of course, Ed Miliband would argue that he's not a zealot. He's just trying to save the environment. Danny Kelly.
It's absurd.
The utility of it all.
Exactly.
I mean, what difference will it make? And that's what I really get frustrated about. I'm not a climate denier. I take everything that the scientists tell me and I believe it. And I also think Paul's point was very interesting as well. But it's the futility of it all. What are we doing to ourselves? Thousands of jobs are going with the North Sea thing. Thousands of jobs are on the line. It's just, what difference does it make?
Well,
unless other countries around the world actually get involved, what difference
Well,
does it
I'll
make?
tell you the difference it makes. The difference it makes is that all of us and everybody else has to pay vastly more for their energy bills, for their electricity, while China and India roar away using conventional stuff, churning out all these emissions, which we've done more than any other country in the world. I mean, I'm agreeing with you, to reduce emissions. And it is utterly ridiculous for us to bankrupt ourselves, charge people so much for their electricity, while huge countries with mega populations are steaming away, churning out all these. I mean, it's bonkers.
But they would argue that we've had our time with the Industrial Revolution when they weren't doing that.
Well, fine,
That's a rubbish argument.
No,
the fact that we produced so much in the Industrial Revolution.
But Danny, darling,
era.
if you accept that argument, and there is a validity to it, it is their turn.
We've got to punish ourselves now.
No. Then that is saying, let them go ahead and do it, but don't punish ourselves.
It's the self-flagellation
We've done our
I
bit.
don't get.
No, I know, it's crazy.
The point that makes is that who are you to tell them to do what you have just been doing?
I don't think we should.
That's why they're not listening.
If climate change and man-made climate change and the threat of it is so serious and potentially cataclysmic, I think the next logical step for people like Jim would be to call for some sort of regime change in countries like China, who are doing absolutely nothing about it.
Well, he's not going to do that.
Of course not. But that would be the next political movement to demand regime change if climate change is so potentially damaging.
Right, well, this show's nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voices, their opportunity to be on the show and tell us what they think about the topics we're discussing. There's three of you. Lee Webb in Bedfordshire. Briefly, what do you think? Is it?
I think it's madness, this net zero stuff. We're doing away, if we stop all of this oil drilling, we're stopping away with a lot of revenue for the government. £8.6 billion is raised each year by the government. That's on average. Well, some years it's more, some years it's less. But just lose all of that revenue is absolutely mental and
Julie
totally
Ford,
against our security.
Julie Ford in Bedfordshire. Sorry to rush you, Lee. Julie Ford.
Is anything safe under any of the governments, I think is the question, Nana. I agree with everything that both of your panels have said, both Jim and Paul and Christine and Danny. I think for us as the size of the UK in the rest of the world, it's not going to really make much impact. No. And it's going to end up with our customers having to pay the bill.
Yeah, I suppose so. And land is a premium and you can't just put solar panels on it. And Brian Dugan, finally to you, is energy safe in Labour?
Yeah, I mean, I think striving towards what they're trying to do by 2030, I think, is laudable, and I think that's what we have to strive for, collectively as a human race. But that's difficult because other countries have their own approaches to this, Nana. But I think we have to strive towards it, and the global crisis at the moment, we need clean energy, and that's what we need to be looking for.
Well, we need to, but not in a counterproductive fashion. I'll agree with you on that as well. Brian Dugan, thank you very much. Julie Ford in Bedfordshire, and also Lee Webb in Bedford.